Welcome to the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial. I'm your host, Jason Pugh, joined now by the head coach, the top Demon, Brad Laird. And coming off a bye week, Coach, we talked a little bit about last week what you were going to do with your bye week. So let's just recap that. A big weekend more so for Brock Laird, but Brad the dad had a very interesting open week.
Yeah, I guess if you're not able to play, and we really wanted to play, and not have an open day. But I guess the next best thing would to be have the opportunity to be able to go on a visit with Brock, and so it was good. He's been on a couple of those that I haven't been able to be a part of. So to have the opportunity to just kind of follow along and him to hopefully be able to reach one of his dreams that he's wanted to do, but also at the being around good people and the coaching staff at Southeastern where he visited this weekend. Coach Bobby Barbier and Taylor Dugas and Spencer that were all here. So it was good to see those guys, but more importantly, just to be with Brock and have the opportunity to go through a recruiting visit on the other end of the spectrum, being a dad and not the coach. So we had a good time. It was fun.
Was there anything, did you take your parent hat off and put the coach hat and scribble some notes in terms of the visit, or was it just pretty much being the parent and not kind of turning off the coaching and recruiting host side of things?
It was. I was the dad. But you still look to see how people go about visits and talking to different people that are involved with the program. Not just necessarily baseball, but academics, training room to see how things are done different ways. And so you're always kind of looking to see, is there anything that I can take from this that will make us better in all facets here at Northwestern State. But for the most part, I was a dad enjoying the moment.
Well, you were down there for what may be the most surprising result of Week 4 in terms of a Southland team, HCU defeating Southeastern. And it kind of goes to what you speak to every time we talk ahead of a Southland game. You've got one more non-conference game, which we'll get into in a moment. But when it comes to the Southland, it is an anyone can beat anyone kind of league.
And it's been that way. This year's not going to be any different as we've, have already seen. It's, a matter of, who's playing well at that particular time, who's healthy. The ball's got to still bounce a certain way. So, I just think that week in and week out in this conference, it'll be no different this year. The opportunity to have success is going to be there. And, we just got to make sure that we do our part as coaches and players, once we get to that moment, that we put ourselves in position to be able to do the things that we know we're capable of doing.
Well, before you get to that, you'll have Eastern Illinois at home on Saturday, and last really tune-up game ahead of conference. But coming off the bye week, what were some of the things you were looking for in the bye week, and did you get what you wanted?
We'll see. It's been a long 2 weeks, I can tell you that. Not always fun either. But that's we did that to ourselves, and so we have the opportunity to fix it. The bye week, you want to make sure that first of all, offensively, defensively, and special teams with Coach Blair, Coach Glosser, and Coach Atwell. They go back and kind of do a little self-scouting. What are things that is going well? What are things that we need to fix? But as a team, I think we had an opportunity to just kind of sit back, hopefully get some things straight, outside of the X's and O's. And, I think so far this week that we were able to do that. But I think still, once we get to Saturday night at 9:30, 10 o'clock, I can probably answer that question a little better. But, I like where we are so far. We've been able to get some guys back healthy that, if we did play last week, I'm not so sure. I know they wouldn't be 100%, but two, I'm not sure if they'd have played at all. So I think, that's what a bye week is for. You hope to get some guys healthy, maybe get some guys that have not played yet to the point to where they're ready to contribute. So, yes, it's been a long 2 weeks, but it's been a good 2 weeks, and we'll be ready at 6 o'clock Saturday night.
So we talked about it last week, where would you want the bye week to land? I thought Bo Blair had a really good answer when he said, wherever we have the most injuries. I'd love to have that next week. And sounds like, some of those guys that you and I talked about yesterday when we did the thing that's on YouTube now, some of those guys that haven't seen action, a chance to possibly come back this week.
Yeah, and I think it's still early in the week, but it does give them another, week, last week, where we did not have a game to be able to go at their own pace. Once you get to game week, you're trying to, you got to get the practice reps and you got to get the game plan down schematically with what we're trying to do in all three phases. But the open week kind of allows you to kind of go at your own pace a little bit. So, we'll amp it up a little bit more this week with those guys, and I think that'll determine what their status will be Saturday.
And a little bit more normal week now. It's Tuesday when we're filming this. Whenever you watch it is when you watch it. But as we sit here and you look toward Eastern Illinois, that's a team that comes in with a lot of confidence, a team that probably feels a lot like your group did going up there last year. She's kind of on the other foot as they come down this year.
Yeah, they if you look at what they've done through the first 4 games, it's obvious to see their record, being 3-1, but especially the last 2 weeks, how they've won those games. They've won those games late in the fourth quarter. Both of them coming from behind. I think against Illinois State, scored with under a minute. To score a touchdown and then kick the extra point, which Illinois State had missed earlier in the game. And then this week scoring twice in the last, 4 minutes of the game to come back and beat McNeese, down 28-7 at some point in the second quarter to come back and win 31-28. So, they're playing with a lot of confidence, and, they've shown that they've been able to get it done in the fourth quarter. So, got a good football team that's coming in that's beat a top 25 team in Illinois State 2 weeks ago. So, but, I say all that, it's still about us. It's still about us being consistent, executing in all 3 phases. And, I look forward to see the progress that we've made from the last time we were on that field at Turpin Stadium.
I think we talked about this last year. The one win in the series with EIU came with you at quarterback. It's been a few years. Do you remember much about that? And was there any kind of, I know when we got up there last year, we may have touched on it, any kind of memories that came back from that game?
I think the only thing that I can remember is the snow. It was undoubtedly later on in the year, but we go out for pregame, and it's a normal pregame. It's cold, and it started snowing a little bit during that. But by the time we came back, to kick it off, the field was covered quite a bit. But we were able to come out with a win, and I just remember that's that type of, not necessarily atmosphere, but weather, because you don't play in many snow games here. So, it had to be something in the 30s, possibly 20s. It'll be low 90s this Saturday, a little different.
In that respect, probably a little bit of a home field advantage coming from where they are to coming here. Similar, we got there last year, and the first real cool front of fall had come through. It was a little chilly kickoff last year. Not snow weather, but
right.
For us,
and
very
it'll
chilly.
Definitely be different, and that's something that they haven't, they have not been a part of. They don't have to practice in it like we have. So, you would hope that, and that's the point of them coming here. You want to have home field advantage whenever you play at home, and we will. I think, playing in Turpin Stadium, after a week off of not playing, to have the community, the fans, the alumni, the family come back and watch these young men perform Saturday night.
I think it kind of goes to, we spoke about the weather, these interregional rivalries or interregional competition. A Midwest team against a South team. Went out west last year to Montana. You get to see a lot of what the FCS level is like other places.
Well, very good for non-conference games. It's sometimes can be tough to find, especially down south, the non-conference FCS games. You're going to play your non-conference FBS games, but to be able to play those non-conference FCS games, to kind of see where, not necessarily the conference is against their conference, but, how do we, where are we at compared to where they are in their conference? So always good to be able to have these types of contests that are non-conference games.
Well, Coach, we look forward to being out there and seeing you run through the purple smoke at about 6:02, 6:03 on Saturday night. Stay with us here on the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial. We'll be back with defensive coordinator Weston Glosser.
Whether it's in the trailer, behind the camera, or on the air, NSU has a place for you. Learn the ins and outs of an ESPN broadcast while getting a full-fledged education in sports media or broadcast journalism. Northwestern State University, New Media, Journalism, and Communication Arts. Learn more at nsula.edu/new media.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, joined now by Northwestern State defensive coordinator Weston Glosser. And Coach, we kind of talked last week. It was an open week, a little time with the family. So how was Saturday not being Coach Glosser, but being the Glosser father?
Tell you what, it's difficult to turn it off. You're definitely revved up for the season, but enjoyed Saturday. Ended up having a lot of our defensive players who stayed in town over to the house, had a little lunch, watched Eastern Illinois McNeese on TV, and then great Saturday night, got to hang out with the wife and kids and be able to smoke some ribs and, do some things like that, but definitely, able to get back to work Sunday and good to be back in season mode now, so, kind of back to normal this week.
All right, you're from Texas. We know that. We know that's the best barbecue state in the country, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you live in North Carolina,
everything's
so
bigger in Texas.
You've got a little comparison's sake there. We like to eat. We like to eat a lot of barbecue on the road. Love to have you out sometime if that was possible. So thanks to Patrick Netherton for teaching us all about that good stuff. But you talked about smoking ribs. Is that your specialty? Do you have a go-to, or you know?
I'd like to claim brisket. Brisket's the one that really kind of has my heart. I think it's the time and dedication you put into it, waking up early, being able to smoke it all day, make sure it's right. But the ribs definitely turned out good. My wife, if she tells me they're good, I know I hit the money. So like I said, I really enjoyed doing that. I know Deacon, my oldest, loves to wake up with me in the morning, especially when I'm doing brisket. Whether it be 4:45, 5 in the morning, he's up, and he loves the process of it too. So definitely fun, but barbecue is absolutely best in Texas.
Process of cooking, process of building a team, probably some parallels you could draw.
Some parallels, a little bit different though. And that's the thing for us this last week, really focusing on us and as a defense and who we are and our identity and being able to re-emphasize what we want to be as a defense and kind of, how we want to get things done in our persona. And one of the things we've talked about since last season, beginning this January, is grit and having that grit and what that means to us. And we break it down, each letter and what it means, but being able last week to really emphasize that and what we need to get done to be successful these next 8 guaranteed games. And, and that starts with the mentality and the mentality of being the most physical team on the field and stopping the run. And that's what we have to get to. And being able to continue to improve in areas we've been good, but fix areas we've been, poor in, which is explosive plays. And so I think that comes with the mindset and identity, and that's what we focused last week on, of be us and get that back and really put our brand of football on the field. And, for us, it's like I tell the kids, our brand is when people put on the film, what do they see? What do they say about us? Do they turn it on and, man, this team plays hard, they're physical, what do they do? That's our brand of football we've got to put on film and have an opportunity this weekend to try and get back on track of what we want to be.
Is that when you hit it into the open week, when you have that time, when you can do a little deeper dive, as Coach Laird talked about, with self-scouting and looking at it, is that what you saw? I mean, do you see the brand you want? Not all the time. I mean, no one's going to be perfect in that regard, but generally speaking, is the brand you want, is what you saw?
For the most part, yes, and it's been a huge improvement from last season as far as who we want to be, where it is. It's got to be consistent. I know last week on the show we talked about everything matters. Every play matters, and our Achilles heel as a defense this year has been explosive plays, whether it be the run game, the passing game, more versus SFA outside the third play. It's eliminating explosives, and you never know what play that's going to be. And so it's 60 minutes of consistency, because there's times when we do play the way we want to play and who we want to be. We're a really good defense to do really good things. It has to be for 60 straight minutes. It can't be, 3.5 quarters. It's got to be for 4 quarters from the start. This season we have not started as fast as we want to on defense, and so that's our MO for those guys. Come out and have that mindset from play one, eliminate the explosive plays. And like I said, that's really what it is when it comes down into football. It's just a mindset, that physical brutality that we need to play with, and it has to be every single play. And last week on the show, we talked about everything matters. And like I said last week, it's on and off the field, and getting our kids to understand that it's not a pick and choose thing. When you want to be good and you want to win consistently, it's in every single thing you do, have that competitive nature, and that's what we have to get to.
You talked about physicality. You talked about bringing that from year to year. With so many new guys, especially on the back end of that secondary and the back seven, or it would be back seven for the way you run things. When you look at it, does it help to have some guys that come in as a bit of a clean slate to where you can start fresh with them, or do you like having returners back who kind of know what to expect from you?
I think it's a good mixture of both, because you definitely want the returners back who are bought into you and what you're doing, and know the lay of the land and the standard that you've set. And that's one thing we talk about. I mentioned grit earlier as our word since January we've used as a defense, how we define it. But every day, even starting last year, it's hold the highest standard. And our thing is not what we think everybody else's standard is or what it is, but our standard. And that's on and off the field. How you talk to the people in the cafeteria, how you talk to, people who help clean the buildings and do that. How do you hold yourself? When you go out in this community to Walmart or Super One or any of those, how do you represent this university? And so setting that standard, and you have those returners back, it helps the new guys come in and pick up that standard even more. And then, the good part is you get transfers from different places, and they tell the guys, we're doing it better than what it was at my last place. We're working harder, we're doing this, or we're more physical. And that's the good things you like to hear, is they kind of get that comparison from the new guys. But definitely a good mixture of, returners coming in, and then the ability for me to add a couple guys who played for me at another institution, and being able to come in and, guys, this is how you need to carry yourselves and what you need to do. So I think it's a good mixture to be able to set that standard and who your program is and who our defense is, our identity, and how we want to play.
You had last week to kind of self-scout. Now you get back into it's game week. It's Tuesday morning as we're sitting here again. Maybe not Tuesday when people watch this, but when you look toward Eastern Illinois, that's a team that we were talking about before the show. They've won a couple of different ways offensively. They've kind of looked at times like two different teams.
Yeah, and that's the thing when you watch their team, and I think their offensive coordinator does a great job of putting their kids in a position to be successful. And you look back to last year, what they were able to do. You look to this year, they have a quarterback transferring from Georgetown who, when he has time, man, he can spin it. He's got an arm, and he's deadly accurate with it. And, so that's the thing for him, putting him in position to be successful. And they're going to take max protection shots. They're going to run the ball efficiently. They're going to have some trick plays in the arsenal, so you got to be ready for that. But I think, even last year, looking back at him, he does a great job putting them in position to be successful. O-line plays hard, very, very physical, and you saw that in the McNeese game with their running game, and, had a young guy, Flowers, come out and really set the tone for them in the run game. And so, he's getting back to what he does, and that's the thing over the bye week, analyzing us, the things that we've done good this season, and being able to, preach to our kids and show them. And one thing we did as a defense is also go through the negatives, which we've talked about, explosive plays. We watched every single one of them as a defense last week. Where the issue was, how it happened, why it happened, everything, and just broke it down as a defense. And, and I think it's kind of, I was a history major, and, especially military history, and that's fun to me. But if you don't know where you've been and what you've done, how do you learn to fix it? And that's the thing. You don't want to repeat the same mistakes over and over. So being able last week to show those guys every explosive play, this is why it happened, here's how we get it fixed, and then also showing them here's the things we've done well and what we have to emphasize moving forward.
History major.
Yes, sir.
Did you expect to be a coach? I mean, were you thinking of teaching history? I mean, let's go back to when you were in college, which for you is not as long as it was for me, so that's good for you. But as a history major, did you have any plans to coach? Was that always something you planned on, or you said you've been interested in military history? Was that kind of what led there?
I always wanted to be a coach. And one thing, when I went to Sam Houston State, entered in, I was a kinesiology major. And I had an advisor tell me, if you want to coach, all kinesiology can do for you is help you teach PE. And, that doesn't really broaden your market. When you go, well, history's always been an area I loved. And at Sam Houston, I was able to major in, specifically military history, which was a lot of fun for me. But I always wanted to coach. It goes back. My dad still jokes with me. I was in second grade. I used to carry a an orange notebook around with notebook papers drawing plays. Back then it was all offensive plays. I, loved offense. It's what I thought I was going to do. And but since second grade, wanted to be a coach. And, that was always kind of my calling. And it's crazy looking back because even then that's all I wanted to do. It wasn't anything else of I want to coach football, and specifically college football. And so been very blessed in my life to be able to do that. But going to Sam Houston, like I said, I was actually a kinesiology major and then flipped to history. Minored in English, so fun route there. But a little fun fact: our kids, when they hear that, give me a hard time a little bit because you wouldn't think it. But
well, that's kind of funny you mentioned that. Offensive guy played quarterback, become a defensive coordinator. Sounds like your boss. Sounds a lot like what Coach Laird has done in his career. And have y'all ever discussed kind of the somewhat similar paths in terms of here's a quarterback in college. You were at Sam Houston. Brad was here. You move to the defensive side, which I guess as a quarterback you're used to dissecting defenses and looking at that and finding the way to attack. How much do you talk about that, if at all, and then the quarterback mind as a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, and I think it gives you a holistic view. And talking to Coach Laird, just kind of an idea and a picture of everything. How you thought about things when you're on the offensive side and attack things, but then it pairs it to defense. I'll be honest, I'll never forget my first year coaching at Sam Houston State. I was on the defensive side, and I remember thinking, man, next year I'm going to move to offense and be there. And after 1 year, I loved it. I don't think I could ever go back because, in my opinion, just a different mindset, just different, mentality, the way you have to approach things, the way you adjust. And, it's a chess match. It really is, and trying to think about what they're going to do to you and how you need to react and respond. And after my first year on defense, man, I fell in love, so I don't see myself ever going back to offense.
And clearly it's been passed down to your son, who reminds you to always stop the B gap.
Always plug it. So he watched the radio show last week and gave me a hard time about that one. He said, no, Dad, I told you last week when they're running the ball, you got to blitz more, so it changed from the B gap to blitzing. But he's got the answer, so good signs of, an offensive coach in him because, you've got the answers for everything.
Well, we may get him in here next, give him a little clicker and get the telestrator going. That'd be a lot of fun. But, Coach, thank you as always for your time. We'll come back on the final segment of the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial with offensive coordinator Bo Blair coming up next here on YouTube.
Doug here. Does anybody have any other questions?
Here's your coffee, sir. Here, take it.
Thanks, Dad.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group here on YouTube, joined now by Northwestern State offensive coordinator Bo Blair. And Coach, we're going to start with, it was a bye week last week. We talked about what you were going to do. Did you accomplish what you wanted to that weekend? Did you get away and kind of unplug for a little bit?
Yes, sir. I got to spend some time with the family, which was good, and also got to just relax, watch a little football, and enjoy it from the fan aspect rather than the coach aspect.
So you're able to turn off the coach. You didn't look for blocking schemes. You didn't look for execution aside more than just, hey, great play?
My dad's a retired coach, so it was a little bit of X and O's, but other than that, it was definitely just cheering and getting excited and bantering back and forth with my pops.
Has that always been your relationship with him? I mean, certainly as you've grown older and you've gotten into coaching, has it been a lot of that? Is that what the Blair guys do as they watch a game?
So after every game he calls me and gives me all the good, the bad, the ugly. So 100%. He's a coach first. Definitely would like the father first sometimes, but he's definitely the coach first. It's always good. It's always critiquing of what you need.
Coach first is always easier to deal with after a win.
Oh,
sure.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get into everything as we get out of the bye week. You kind of talking with Coach Laird and Coach Glosser, a lot of self-scout, kind of a deep dive this last week. Is that kind of typical for a bye week to kind of get in and kind of get in the weeds more so than just being on the treadmill of here's what we do on a Monday, here's what we do on a Tuesday, here's what we do on a Wednesday?
Absolutely. We're getting ready for Eastern Illinois, but at the end of the day, our first 2 days, we really focus on us. Where do we got to get better? What are we missing? What are we lacking? For us, third downs, we got to figure that out. Got to get better at that. Whether it be third and medium, third and long, third and short. We did a good job against SFA where we were in third and medium a lot. That was our average. That was our median. So getting better at that. And then you have UL, where we're more third and long. The biggest thing is making it third and manageable, which they did last time. We just got to execute and better on second and long too as well. So those are things we got to clean up, got to get better at. I think overall penalties, we did a dang good job of that. We had 2 penalties. Turnovers, got to protect the ball. Sometimes it just happens. Sack fumbles, just not forced balls. Don't force throws. We got to get rid of those too.
Well, it probably gets amplified or maybe magnified a little bit more when you play a team with, you're not facing their offense from your vantage point, you're facing their defense. But when their offense maintains control, when they don't turn the ball over, it kind of puts the emphasis on you to do the same.
You kind of, if our defense is killing it and going hot, and we want to try to, be the same as them. But, typically I don't really try to focus too much on what's going on out there. Obviously look down at your call sheet, talk to your staff, and if you're getting the ball back one or two really fast, 1 or 2 things just happen. Either they just scored really fast, or we just got to turn over really fast. So you can look up and see. I typically don't watch what's happening on the other side of the ball. Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense. I mean, you got to focus on you, like you said, and especially in between fixing what went wrong or complimenting what went right.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at it, what did go right, at least toward the end of last week, or 2 weeks ago now, was Jaron Mitchell catching a touchdown pass for the first time in a Northwestern uniform. I think we talked about it a little bit, but just to kind of reemphasize, that kid went through a lot last year. And to battle back, that's been a good thing for your offense. And not only that, but I think you kind of see his personality showing a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, Jaron's definitely battled back from some negative, some injuries, but I mean, I think that pretty much sums up our team. They persevere, they push through, they battle. Whether it be, we mentioned before on air, Tyler Vanderwall. I mean, there's a lot of negatives that happen to these kids, and they find a way to push through. And I think Jaron's doing a good job, and obviously executed on the field, which correlates usually in life. You execute in life, you're probably going to execute on that field. So
I think we touched on it with Scooter, kind of the same thing.
Same thing with Scooter.
Very similar situation.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Scooter is definitely, if you compare from a kid, health-wise and what he's done and how he's interacted with players from last semester to this semester, I mean, it's a complete 180. So it's a good deal.
Good thing about bye weeks is typically, and I thought you had a great line about it last week when I say, where do you want your bye week? After we're hurt the most.
Yeah.
Now a chance for this bye week, you may get a couple of guys back as they kind of work their way in. Maybe not the worst thing to have a bye week in week 4 this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. We might get a couple players back, through some injuries that happened preseason, and we'll see. I think we'll have 2 key players that probably come back and help us out, whether it be the tight end position, receiver position. We'll figure it out and see how this week goes. That
has to make you feel a little bit more complete as a coordinator, because when guys are out, sometimes it can hamstring you.
Oh, for sure. That's like a prime example. Tyler Vanderwall had a little strain on his elbow, and then we had another kid out with the ACL strain, and another kid out with a meniscus scope, and so we'll get all 3 of them back this week. So we'll see how it performs and how it goes.
So you had a chance now. You kind of look toward Eastern Illinois, and we talk about this all the time, especially coaches want to focus on themselves. They want to focus on their team and what they can do right. What have you seen kind of from Eastern Illinois as you look at them? Is it, without getting in too much in detail, similar to last year, different? I mean, there's been so many changes at so many places on the FCS level. We've talked about it here, how many new faces we have on the NSU roster. Similar up there?
Yeah, for sure. They did a good job of recruiting and getting guys in, and new defensive coordinator than last year. The head coach is a defensive-minded guy, so they have some things that they did last year they still kind of do this year. But like I said, every school in the nation, different transition, different turnover, and different kids coming in. FCS a lot of times has a lot of transitioning, turnover in coaches. I mean, that's all college coaching. So I think they're doing a good job this year. I mean, they're keeping everybody low. They're playing teams and keeping the score low, and they played an FBS opponent, and it wasn't a blowout. So I think their defense is really good, and they do a good job there.
You touched on it with Wilkinson being a defensive guy there. You're an offensive coach by trade. When do you have you worked for defensive-minded head coaches? I mean, you kind of got one that's been on both sides here. I mean, Coach Laird's cut his teeth defensively, but he was a quarterback. Sure. So, I mean, is it a situation or when you work on one side of the ball and your head coach is leaning toward that side or leaning toward the other side, is there a preference? Does it matter? Do you see any difference?
Well, I'm going back and trying to think where I've been, and SFA was the only place defensive-minded head coach, and we were air raid offense there, and we slung it around a lot, and he didn't really say too much. And here last year, Coach Laird, I know he's a quarterback by heart and trade, but he coached defense, defensive guy, fully bought in defense, and he never said anything. So I don't know. It's always really been the same. And at the end of the day, they just want to find a way to win, regardless if it's running the ball 100 times or throwing the ball 100 times. Just finding a way to win. So, and that's pretty much the whole gist of it.
Sounds like your philosophy too.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Just put one in the left-hand column.
100%. That's all I'm trying to ask for.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you for your time as always. Thank you for watching the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial here on YouTube. We'll be back next week.